Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. The soft hum of conversation and clinking silverware fills the air of the upscale New York City restaurant. The lighting is warm and subdued, casting a soft glow over everything in sight. Every plate seems like a work of art, and every guest appears confident, comfortable in their place. But not Emma Brooks. Her reflection in the glass window outside reminds her of the stark difference between her and the polished patrons inside. Her dress is second-hand, her shoes scuffed, and her nerves are on edge. She's already late, and this blind date was supposed to be a favor for her best friend, Jenny. Taking a deep breath, Emma steels herself and steps into the restaurant, her heels clicking on the marble floor. She looks around, her eyes scanning the room, looking for her date. Table 7, she mutters to herself, the words barely audible over the chatter in the restaurant. Her heart races, and she glances at the person sitting alone at the back of the room. He's sharply dressed, wearing a well-tailored suit, his dark hair neatly combed. He seems engrossed in his phone, and she wonders for a moment if that's him. With a nervous smile, she takes a deep breath, walks over, and says, "Hi, you must be Kevin." "I'm Emma. Nice to meet you." The man looks up at her, startled. His eyes widen, and for a brief moment, he's unsure of what to say. Hi Emma, he finally replies, his voice a little unsure. Emma, mistaking his confusion for shyness, takes a seat across from him. Her hands fidget nervously in her lap as she tries to make conversation. "I know this is awkward. Blind dates are always weird, right?" she says with a nervous laugh. "Jenny told me you might be a little quiet. So don't worry. I can talk enough for both of us." The man doesn't say much at first, his mind clearly still on his phone, but he finally looks up, deciding to play along. A faint smile tugs at the corner of his lips. "Right. Blind dates are something else," he says softly, setting his phone down. Emma feels a little relieved, thinking she's broken the ice. The conversation flows a little easier now, as she talks about the struggles she faces as a waitress, long hours, barely enough money to make ends meet, and her dream of opening an art studio one day. "You're not what I expected," she says suddenly, her tone shifting to something more curious. "I thought you'd be a little more reserved." She blushes slightly, realizing she might have been too forward. The man chuckles softly. "You're easy to talk to," he admits. He leans back in his chair, looking at her with interest, though Emma doesn't notice the lingering look. "Tell me more about you," she presses, eager to fill the silence with anything. "What do you do?" "I work in tech," he answers simply. "Tech?" Emma says, her eyes lighting up, though she's clearly not sure what that means. "Like, coding and apps and stuff?" "I'm terrible with computers." He smiles, something like that. He leans forward slightly, intrigued by how easy it is to talk to her. She's different from the people he usually spends time with, people who are only interested in his wealth or status. Emma doesn't know who he really is, and that's something he's not used to. She laughs nervously, not knowing how much her life is about to change. Just then, her phone buzzes, and she glances at the screen, her heart sinking as she reads the text. "Hey, Emma, where are you?" "I'm at table 7 looking forward to meeting you, Kevin." Her face flushes with embarrassment as she looks up at him. "You're not Kevin, are you?" she asks softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Kevin, actually Liam Parker, the CEO of a major tech company," lets out a soft sigh, his expression softening with an almost apologetic smile. "No, I'm not Kevin," he admits. "But you seemed so nice, I didn't want to spoil the moment." Emma's stomach churns with the realization of her mistake. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she says, standing abruptly. "I've got to go." She grabs her coat and bolts for the door, her face burning with shame. As she rushes out, Liam stands up as well, a strange mix of regret and curiosity swirling in his chest. He had planned to correct her from the start, but something about her honesty, her warmth, had made him pause. He watches her leave, wondering if he'll ever see her again. The next day, Liam can't shake the thought of Emma. He's in his penthouse, staring out at the New York City skyline, but his mind is elsewhere. He's thinking about the way she spoke to him, the way she made him laugh, the way she wasn't impressed by his wealth. He wants to see her again. But not as the CEO. Not as the wealthy man everyone expects him to be. Later that afternoon, Emma is at home, exhausted from a long shift at the diner. Her phone buzzes, and she sees a text message from an unknown number. "Hi Emma, it's Liam. I was the guy at the restaurant last night. I know it was a mix-up, but I'd like to see you again. Maybe coffee?" Emma stares at the message, her heart skipping a beat. Could this be the same guy? She shows the text to her best friend, Jenny, who grins mischievously. "You say yes," Jenny says, teasing her. After a moment of hesitation, Emma finally replies, "Okay, coffee sounds nice." The next day, Emma couldn't stop thinking about the man she had mistaken for Kevin. She had tried to laugh it off, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to him, something different. She had assumed he was just another quiet guy, another disappointment in the world of blind dates. But there was something about the way he listened, the way he didn't just look at her but seemed to see her. Emma shook her head as she scrubbed the counter at the diner, pushing away the thought of him. She had a life to live, a job to keep, and a dream to chase. Besides, who had time for a man who wasn't even who he said he was? Still, when her phone buzzed later that afternoon, her heart skipped a beat as she saw the message from the unknown number. "Hi Emma, it's Liam. I was the guy at the restaurant last night. I know it was a mix-up, but I'd like to see you again. Maybe coffee?" Her fingers hovered over the screen, and for a moment, she debated ignoring the message. She had enough on her plate. But something inside her nudged her to reply. She quickly typed, "Okay, coffee sounds nice," before hitting send. She leaned back in her chair, a small smile tugging at the corners of her lips. What was she doing? She arrived at the coffee shop early, unsure of what to expect. Liam had suggested a quiet spot away from the crowds, a small cafe tucked on a corner just a few blocks from the diner. Emma found him sitting at a corner table, dressed casually in jeans and a gray sweater. There was no sign of the polished businessman she had imagined, just a regular guy sipping coffee, looking almost nervous. He looked up when she entered, his expression softening. "Hey, thanks for meeting me," he said, gesturing to the seat across from him. "No problem," Emma replied with a smile, trying to calm her nerves. She slid into the chair, and for a moment, they both just stared at their drinks. It was awkward at first, the kind of silence that felt too long, but it didn't take long for the conversation to start flowing. Liam asked her about her life, her dreams of opening an art studio, and the struggles she faced just to make ends meet. She didn't mention the mess of her life, the debt, the rent, or the fear that she might never make it. Instead, she focused on the little things that made her smile, the things that felt like hope in her otherwise chaotic life. As they talked, Emma noticed how easy it was to be around him. He wasn't the cold, distant millionaire she had imagined. In fact, he seemed like just another guy with a story to tell, with real feelings. The conversation shifted, and soon, they were both laughing about something that had happened to her at work, a mix-up with an order that turned into a whole disaster. For the first time in what felt like forever, Emma wasn't thinking about bills, deadlines, or her constant struggle to keep her head above water. She was just talking. "You're not what I expected," Emma said, a little embarrassed. She realized how much she had assumed about him the night before. He wasn't just a man in a suit. He wasn't just a guy in tech. There was something more to him. She looked up from her coffee cup, meeting his eyes. Liam chuckled softly. "Yeah, I get that a lot. People expect me to be this stiff corporate guy, but it's not who I am." He paused for a moment, then added, "I'm glad you're not making assumptions about me." Emma smiled, feeling a little lighter. I guess we both had our assumptions. But I'm glad we're doing this, the whole coffee thing. There was a brief silence as they both looked at their cups. Emma wondered if this was real, if she could trust this connection. The idea of him being more than just a regular guy was hard to shake. Was he still hiding something from her? Maybe. But there was something about his honesty, about how open he was, that made her want to believe him. She hadn't felt like this in a long time, safe, comfortable. They talked for a while longer, and as the afternoon wore on, the cafe started to empty out. It was clear that the date was winding down, but there was something left unsaid between them. Neither of them was ready to end it yet. Liam stood up as she grabbed her coat. So, when can I see you again? He asked, his voice warm. Emma hesitated for just a second. She didn't know if she should let herself hope for something more. Her life was a mess, and the last thing she needed was to get caught up in something she couldn't handle. But there was something in his gaze, something that made her feel like she wasn't alone in the world. How about dinner? Emma said, surprising herself. Liam smiled, a genuine, wide smile. Dinner sounds great, he replied, his eyes lighting up. I'll pick you up tomorrow at 7. As Emma walked out of the cafe, she felt a little lighter, a little hopeful. She didn't know what this would turn into, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like something good might be on the horizon. Later that evening, Liam sat back in his apartment, staring out at the New York skyline. He couldn't stop thinking about Emma, her smile, her laugh, the way she talked about her dreams. He had told her he worked in tech, but he knew he couldn't keep up the charade forever. It had been easier to just let her think he was like everyone else. But he wanted to show her who he really was. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the status. It was about something much deeper. He grabbed his phone and texted her one more time before heading to bed. I'm really looking forward to dinner tomorrow. Can't wait to see you again. The message sent, and for the first time in a while, Liam felt the weight on his shoulders lighten. Maybe this time, things could be different. The next evening, Emma stood in front of her small apartment mirror, adjusting her dress for the 4th time. She had never been one for fancy clothes or extravagant dates, but tonight felt different. Tonight, she was meeting Liam again, this time for dinner. The nerves were there, of course, but there was something else too. Excitement. Curiosity. A spark she hadn't felt in a long time. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she was ready to let go of her doubts and enjoy the moment. When the doorbell rang, she jumped slightly, taking one last deep breath before walking over to the door. As she opened it, Liam stood there, looking every bit the charming man she had met the day before, but there was something more relaxed about him tonight. He smiled warmly at her, his eyes bright as he looked her up and down. You look beautiful, Liam said, his voice genuine. Emma smiled, feeling her heart flutter. Thanks. You look good too, she said, her voice just a little shaky. It had been a long time since someone had made her feel like this. As she grabbed her coat and stepped outside, Liam opened the door to his car, a sleek black sedan that contrasted sharply with her own worn shoes and second-hand dress. Emma hesitated for a moment but climbed in. Liam got in behind the wheel, and as they drove through the city, the conversation flowed easily again, just like it had the day before. They talked about everything and nothing, her dreams of becoming an artist, his work in tech, the little things that made life worth living. They arrived at a small, upscale restaurant on the edge of the city. Emma felt a wave of unease wash over her as she stepped out of the car, but Liam was right beside her, offering her his hand with a reassuring smile. It's just dinner, he said, as if reading her mind. Let's just enjoy it. No pressure. No pretending. His words settled her nerves, and she followed him inside. The ambience was cozy, dimly lit, with soft jazz music playing in the background. The waiter led them to a quiet corner table, away from the busy crowd. They ordered wine, and as they waited for their meal, the conversation turned more personal. Emma talked about her struggles with rent, her passion for painting, and her dream of opening an art studio one day. She didn't mention the financial mess she was in or the endless cycle of bills that felt like they might drown her. Instead, she focused on the things that kept her going: the beauty of painting, the people who inspired her. Liam listened intently, his gaze never wavering from her face. "You really love this, don't you?" he asked, his voice soft. Emma smiled. "I do. It's the one thing that makes me feel alive, you know? Everything else can feel so empty sometimes, but when I paint, it's like I'm in a different world." Her voice trailed off as she looked down at her hands, almost embarrassed to be talking so openly. Liam reached across the table, his hand resting gently on hers. "You're amazing, Emma," he said, his voice low and sincere. "I don't know if you realize it, but you have this way of making everything feel brighter. Even in the hardest moments." Her heart skipped a beat as she looked up at him, meeting his gaze. She wasn't used to compliments like that. Not from someone like him. But there was no arrogance in his eyes, no hidden agenda. It was pure admiration. It felt real. They talked for hours, the night slipping away without either of them noticing. Eventually, the waiter brought the check, and as Liam reached for it, Emma's heart fluttered again. She had been avoiding the question in her mind: how much did he know? About who he really was? About the money? "I've really enjoyed this," Emma said, her voice a little uncertain. "I don't know how to explain it, but this feels different." She hesitated, her fingers playing with the edge of her napkin. Are you always this open with people?" Liam smiled, but there was a hint of sadness in his eyes. "No," he said softly. "I've spent so much of my life being guarded, keeping people at a distance. But with you, it feels easy. Like I don't have to pretend. And I don't want to lie to you anymore." Emma's breath caught in her throat as she leaned in a little, her curiosity piqued. "Lie to me about what?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam took a deep breath, as if trying to find the right words. "I didn't want you to find out who I really am, not yet. I wanted to get to know you first, not as a billionaire, but as a person. I wanted to see if we could connect without all the expectations." Emma felt a wave of shock and confusion wash over her. She leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. Was this a game to him? Had he been pretending all along? The questions bubbled up inside her, but she didn't know how to ask them. Liam continued, his voice softer now. "I didn't want you to see me as just another rich guy who's only interested in what you can give me. I wanted you to see me for who I really am." He paused, letting his words sink in. "And I don't want to hide anymore. Emma, I'm Liam Parker, CEO of Parker Enterprises, and I'm really starting to care about you." His eyes searched hers for any sign of judgment, but all he saw was confusion. For a moment, the world around Emma seemed to stop. Her mind spun as she processed his words. This man who had seemed so genuine, so kind, was the CEO of one of the biggest companies in the country. The man who had been sitting across from her, sharing stories and laughter, was nothing like the others she had known. And yet, she felt something. Something real. As the silence stretched on, Emma didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to walk away, to leave the world of pretense behind. But another part of her, a part she hadn't listened to in a long time, wanted to stay and see where this could go. The silence between them lingered for a moment longer, and Emma didn't know what to say. Her mind was spinning. Liam Parker, CEO of Parker Enterprises. She had been sitting across from him, sharing stories, laughing, and talking about her dreams, thinking he was just a regular guy. But now, everything had changed. She felt like she was in a whirlwind, unsure of what was real and what was just an illusion. Her heart beat faster as she struggled to process his confession. Was he being honest with her? Or was he just another man hiding behind his wealth? "You don't know what to say," Emma finally whispered, her voice shaky. She wasn't sure if she was upset, confused, or just plain overwhelmed. "You've been pretending to be someone else? Why?" Liam's face softened with regret. He leaned forward, his gaze meeting hers. I didn't want you to know who I really was, he said quietly. I wanted to get to know you for who you are, not because I'm rich. I wanted to see if we could connect without the whole billionaire thing hanging over us. I didn't want to be that guy. Emma looked down at her hands, feeling a mixture of emotions. She had always believed that money and status could complicate everything, but now, she wasn't sure what to believe anymore. Could she trust him? Was it possible that he wasn't like the others? Her mind raced as she thought about how much she had shared with him, how she had allowed herself to be vulnerable. I'm sorry, Liam continued, his voice sincere. I should have told you sooner. But I was afraid. Afraid you would see me differently. That you would think I was only interested in, well, my own world. But Emma, what I'm feeling for you is real. She looked up at him, searching his eyes for any sign of dishonesty. But there was nothing there. Just sincerity. His words echoed in her head. What I'm feeling for you is real. She had to admit that, despite the surprise and confusion, there was something about him that made her feel seen. Not because of his money or his status, but because of who he was in that moment. The man sitting across from her was kind, thoughtful, and genuinely interested in her life. I don't know what to say, Emma said again, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm not used to this. I've always had to fight for everything. For the small things. I never imagined someone like you, someone with all this wealth, would look at me and feel real things. Liam's face softened even further, and he reached across the table, taking her hand gently in his. It's not about the money, he said. It's about us. About what we share. I'm not perfect, and I've made my mistakes. But this right here, with you it feels like something worth fighting for. Emma felt her heart skip a beat as she looked at him. For a moment, everything else faded away, the restaurant, the world outside. All she could focus on was him. She had been so scared of letting someone in, of trusting someone with her heart. But in that moment, she realized she didn't want to keep pushing people away. She wanted to give this a chance. She wanted to see where this could go, no matter how unexpected it was. I don't know where this will go either, she said, finally meeting his gaze. But I'm willing to find out. I'm willing to see if we can make it work. Liam's smile was soft, but it reached his eyes. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I don't expect anything from you. I just want to be honest, to be real with you. And if you're willing to give me a chance, I'll do whatever it takes to prove that this is worth it. The rest of the evening passed by in a blur. They talked more, laughed, and shared more of their stories with each other. The walls Emma had built around her heart slowly started to crumble. She realized that she wasn't afraid of him. She wasn't afraid of this connection that was slowly forming between them. What she was afraid of was letting herself be open to something that could possibly hurt her, but deep down, she knew that sometimes, the risk was worth it. As they finished their meal and stood up to leave, Liam offered to walk her home. Emma hesitated for a moment but nodded. They walked through the quiet streets of the city, the soft hum of traffic in the background. As they reached her apartment, Liam stopped and turned to her. I had a really great time tonight, he said, his voice sincere. I know things are complicated, but I hope you'll let me show you that this isn't just some game. Emma smiled, feeling something shift inside her. I'll give you a chance, she said, her voice soft but sure. But you have to promise me something. Anything, Liam said, his eyes searching hers. Promise me that we'll take this slow, she said. I'm not ready to rush into anything. I need time to figure things out. Liam nodded, a warm smile spreading across his face. I promise. No rush. We'll take it one step at a time. With that, Emma turned and walked into her apartment, her heart lighter than it had been in a long time. She didn't know where this would go, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was ready to find out. In the following weeks, Emma and Liam's connection grew stronger. They continued to meet, each time feeling more comfortable with one another, slowly peeling away the layers they had once kept hidden. They shared late-night conversations over coffee, exchanged stories about their childhoods, and spoke about their hopes and fears. Emma found herself drawn to Liam in a way she hadn't expected. Despite the wealth that surrounded him, he was kind, considerate, and, most importantly, real. She was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, this was something that could work. But even as their bond deepened, Emma couldn't shake the lingering doubts. She was still unsure if she could fully trust Liam. It was hard to forget that he had lied to her at the beginning, that he had hidden who he truly was. And yet, when she looked at him, when she listened to him, those doubts seemed to fade, if only for a moment. One afternoon, as they sat in a small park near her apartment, Emma looked at him, the golden sunlight filtering through the trees, casting a soft glow on his face. It was one of those rare moments when everything felt perfect, and yet, Emma couldn't stop herself from asking the question that had been on her mind for weeks. "Liam," she began, her voice hesitant, "I need to know something. I've been thinking a lot about everything. About you, about us. And I need to ask, why me? Why did you choose to be with me, someone like me, when you could have anyone?" Liam looked at her for a long moment, his expression serious. He reached across the bench and took her hand in his thumb gently brushing against her skin. "I don't know if I can give you a perfect answer," he said softly, his voice steady. "But I can tell you this. From the moment we sat down together at that restaurant, I felt something. It was different than anything I've ever felt. I've spent so much of my life surrounded by people who want something from money, connections, status. But with you, it was never about that. It was just us. And that's what drew me in. You're not like anyone I've ever met." Emma felt her heart soften as he spoke, and for the first time, she allowed herself to believe in the possibility of what they had. Maybe it wasn't perfect, maybe it wasn't easy, but it felt real. And that was enough. "I've never been in a relationship like this," Liam continued, his eyes never leaving hers. "I've always been guarded, always kept my distance. But with you, I feel like I can be myself. I don't have to pretend, and I don't have to hide. And that's why I want to be with you." Emma swallowed, the words catching in her throat. "I don't know if I'm ready for all of this," she admitted, her voice shaking. "I don't know if I can trust that this is real. I've been hurt before, Liam. I've been let down so many times that sometimes, I wonder if it's worth it to try again." For a moment, Liam didn't say anything. He just looked at her, as though he were waiting for her to find the courage to speak again. Then, he gently squeezed her hand. "I know it's hard," he said quietly. "I'm not asking you to forget your past or to trust me overnight. But I want you to know that I'm here. For you. I'm not going anywhere. And I'll prove to you, every single day, that this is real. That I'm real." Emma looked at him, her heart beating in her chest. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, she had found something worth fighting for. But her fear still lingered, that voice in her head telling her to protect herself, to hold back. She wasn't sure how to take the leap, how to trust again after everything that had happened in her life. "I just need time," she whispered, looking down at their joined hands. "I need time to figure out what I want, to figure out if I can really trust this." Liam smiled, a warm, understanding smile. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." Over the next few days, Emma found herself thinking about Liam more than she had expected. She couldn't help but feel a connection to him, one that felt deeper than anything she had ever experienced. But she also knew that she couldn't just jump into something without knowing it was the right choice. She spent more time painting, focusing on her art, and finding solace in the quiet moments of her life. But even as she worked on her canvases, her thoughts kept drifting back to Liam, his sincerity, his warmth, the way he had opened up to her in a way that no one had before. One evening, as she sat in her small apartment, a knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. When she opened it, Liam stood there, holding a small bouquet of flowers. I thought these might brighten your evening, he said with a smile. And I wanted to remind you that I'm still here. Whenever you're ready. Emma smiled, feeling a rush of warmth flood through her. She didn't know what the future held, but in that moment, she knew that she wasn't alone. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. As she took the flowers from him and closed the door behind her, she allowed herself to feel hopeful for what was to come. She didn't have all the answers yet, but maybe, just maybe, she was ready to take the next step. Over the next few weeks, Emma slowly allowed herself to open up more to Liam. The fear she had felt began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of trust. He never pushed her, never rushed her, and that made it easier to let her guard down. They spent more time together, sharing quiet moments over dinner, long walks in the park, and countless conversations about everything and nothing. Every time they were together, Emma felt like she was rediscovering pieces of herself that she had forgotten existed: her dreams, her laughter, her hope. But despite how much she enjoyed being with Liam, there was still a part of her that couldn't fully embrace what was happening. She was still scared. She still worried that this would fall apart. What if he got bored of her? What if he was only interested in her because she was different, because he was curious about someone who wasn't chasing after his wealth? She couldn't help but wonder if, deep down, he was just playing a game. And yet, the way he looked at her, the way he treated her, made her believe in him a little more each day. One afternoon, after a particularly long day at the diner, Emma came home to a surprise. There, on her doorstep, was a small package with a note attached to it. Her heart skipped a beat as she picked it up and read the note. "I've been thinking about you. I hope this brings a smile to your face. Liam." She opened the package carefully, her fingers trembling slightly. Inside was a beautiful sketchbook, the kind she had always dreamed of having but could never afford. It was the kind of gift that showed thought, care, and attention to detail. She felt a lump form in her throat as she held the sketchbook, her mind racing. Why was he being so kind to her? Was it because he thought she needed it? Or was it because he genuinely cared about her passion for art? She sat down on the couch, running her fingers over the leather cover, and a single tear slipped down her cheek. For the first time in a long time, she let herself feel vulnerable, letting go of the walls she had built up for so long. Later that evening, Liam called her, and she didn't wait long before picking up the phone. His voice was warm, comforting, as always. "I'm glad you liked the gift," he said softly. "I know it's not much, but I thought you might enjoy it. I've seen how much you love to draw, and I wanted to encourage that." Emma swallowed the lump in her throat, trying to keep her voice steady. "Liam, this is so thoughtful. You didn't have to do this. But, it means a lot to me. More than you know." There was a pause on the other end of the line, and Emma could hear the sound of Liam breathing. Then he spoke again, his voice a little quieter, more serious. "I want to do more than just give you things, Emma. I want to help you make your dreams come true. I want to be there for you not because I feel like I should, but because I want to." His words hit her like a wave, and she felt her heart race. Could it really be that simple? Could he really want to be with her, not because of her struggles, but because of who she was? Emma closed her eyes, taking a deep breath as she tried to calm the emotions swirling inside her. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. I'm not used to this. I've spent so long just getting by, trying to make ends meet. It's hard for me to believe that someone like you would want to be with someone like me." Liam's voice was steady, full of conviction. "You're more than enough, Emma. I don't care about what you have or don't have. I care about who you are, and that's enough for me." For a moment, there was silence between them. Emma didn't know what to say. She felt overwhelmed, unsure of what this all meant. Could she really trust that this was real? Could she believe in the love Liam was offering her? "I'm scared, Liam," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "Scared that I'll mess this up, scared that it's too good to be true." Liam let out a soft sigh, his voice reassuring. "I'm not going anywhere, Emma. We're in this together. No matter what happens, I'll be here. And I'll be patient with you. Take the time you need. I'm not asking you to rush. Emma felt her heart soften at his words. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she wasn't alone in the world. Like someone actually cared about her dreams, about her heart. She closed her eyes, letting the warmth of his words sink in. Thank you, she whispered, her voice full of emotion. Thank you for being patient with me. I'm trying to let myself believe in this. In us. Liam's response was gentle, but it was filled with certainty. We'll get there, Emma. One step at a time. As she ended the call and sat there, holding the sketchbook close to her chest, Emma realized that she had come so far in such a short amount of time. Maybe, just maybe, she was ready to take the next step. To trust. To love. To let go of the past and embrace the future that was waiting for her. And as the night wore on, she felt a sense of peace settle in her heart. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy, but it was real. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. As the days passed, Emma's life began to feel like it was shifting in ways she never expected. Liam had given her the space she needed, and for the first time, she was beginning to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could have it all: the love, the success, and the happiness she had always dreamed of. But as she continued to spend time with him, she could feel the weight of something growing between them, a tension she couldn't ignore. The more she opened her heart to Liam, the more she felt the presence of a shadow, a worry that she hadn't quite shaken. Was she still afraid of being hurt, of falling for someone who might eventually let her down? Or was there something more? One evening, after a long day of work, Emma sat at her kitchen table, staring down at her phone. It was a message from Liam. She had learned to expect these little notes from him now, and this one was no different. I've been thinking about you, it read. I'd like to talk. Can we meet tonight? A small knot twisted in her stomach as she read the message again. She didn't know why, but something about it felt different. Was he about to tell her something important? Or was this just another moment of reassurance between them? She quickly typed a response, agreeing to meet him at the cafe they often went to. Her thoughts were scattered, unsure of what this conversation would bring. As she made her way to the cafe, her mind raced. The quiet streets of the city seemed almost too calm, too serene for the storm of emotions brewing inside her. She couldn't shake the feeling that Liam was about to take this relationship to a new level, and that scared her more than she wanted to admit. When she arrived, Liam was already there, waiting for her at their usual corner booth. He stood up as soon as she walked in, a warm smile spreading across his face. Emma felt a rush of warmth as she looked at him, but the tension in her chest remained. Hey, she said softly, sitting down across from him. You said you wanted to talk? Liam nodded, his expression serious but gentle. Yeah, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. Something I think you deserve to know. He paused, his gaze never leaving hers. I've been hiding something from you, Emma, and I can't do that anymore. Emma felt her heart race as the words sank in. She tried to read his face, but all she saw was sincerity and something else she couldn't quite place. Regret? Fear? She wasn't sure. What is it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam took a deep breath, his hands resting on the table as he spoke. I never intended for it to get this far, but I've fallen for you, Emma. And I want you to know that I'm not playing games. I'm not just some guy pretending to be someone else. I care about you. More than I ever thought possible. The words hit her like a wave, and for a moment, she was speechless. She had been so afraid of getting too close, of trusting someone with her heart, and yet here he was, laying it all out on the table. Could this really be happening? I know this is complicated, Liam continued, and I'm not asking you to rush into anything. But I needed you to know that I'm serious about us. I'm serious about you. Emma blinked, the words echoing in her mind. She had always been the one to keep people at arm's length, afraid of what they might want from her. But Liam wasn't asking for anything from her except honesty. And for the first time, she felt like she could give that to him. "I'm not sure what this means for us," she said softly, her eyes meeting his. "But I know that I want to try. I want to see where this goes, with you." Liam smiled, a sense of relief flooding his face. "That's all I've ever wanted," he said quietly. They sat in silence for a moment, just taking in the weight of the conversation, the air around them charged with something new, something unspoken. As Emma looked at him, she realized that this wasn't just about the money, or the lies, or the fear. It was about two people, trying to figure out if they could make it work, no matter how complicated it seemed. "Thank you," Emma whispered, her voice full of emotion. "Thank you for being honest with me. I think I'm ready to let go of my fears and see where this goes, too." Liam reached across the table, his hand gently covering hers. "We'll figure it out, together," he said softly. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Emma felt the weight on her shoulders lighten. Maybe this time, things could be different. The weeks that followed were filled with new beginnings. Emma and Liam had finally taken the leap into something real, something they both feared yet longed for. Emma felt a sense of calm she hadn't known in years. She had been so scared to let someone in, but now, she was slowly learning to trust again. Liam had been patient, understanding, and, most importantly, consistent. Every time they spent together felt like a step forward. But despite the growing closeness, Emma still wrestled with one lingering fear: what if this wasn't enough? What if she wasn't enough? One evening, as the sky turned to shades of pink and orange, Emma sat in her small apartment, looking out the window. She was lost in thought, reflecting on everything that had changed since she met Liam. She had spent so much of her life struggling to keep her head above water, fighting just to survive. But now, she wasn't just surviving. She was living. She was beginning to feel like her dreams weren't as out of reach as they once seemed. As the sun set and the city lights flickered to life, Emma's phone buzzed. It was a message from Liam. "I was thinking of you. Do you have time for dinner tonight?" She smiled at the message, feeling warmth flood her chest. It was a simple invitation, but it meant more to her than she could express. They had been spending time together regularly, but tonight, there was something different. Tonight, she knew, Liam had something to say. She quickly typed back, "Yes, I'd love to. Where do you want to go?" She set her phone down and stood up, pulling her favorite dress from the closet. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she knew that whatever Liam had planned, it would be meaningful. She wanted to be ready, to meet him halfway. When Emma arrived at the restaurant, she was greeted by the familiar warmth of the space. It wasn't a fancy place, but it was special to theme a quiet corner where they could talk, laugh, and share their thoughts without distraction. Liam was already there, waiting for her, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. There was no need for words. They both knew that this evening was different. As they sat down, Liam looked at her with a serious expression. "Emma," he began, his voice steady, "there's something I need to say. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I want you to know that what I feel for you is real. I'm not asking you to give me anything. I just want to be with you, to build something with you." He reached across the table and took her hand, his fingers warm against hers. Emma's heart skipped a beat as she looked at him. This wasn't just a casual conversation, this was the moment they had been building towards. She had been waiting for him to say the words, waiting for him to show her that this wasn't just some fleeting connection, that he wasn't going to walk away. "Liam, I'm not sure I'm ready for all of this," Emma said quietly, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't know if I can let go of my fears, of everything I've built to protect myself. But I'm willing to try. I'm willing to let myself believe in us." Liam smiled softly, his eyes filled with understanding. "I don't need you to be perfect, Emma. I don't need you to have all the answers. I just need you to trust me, to trust that this is real. We don't have to figure everything out right now. We can take it one step at a time." For the first time in a long time, Emma felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She wasn't sure where this journey would take them, but she knew one thing for sure: she was ready to take the next step. She wasn't alone anymore. She had Liam by her side, and together, they could face whatever came their way. As the night continued, they shared stories, laughter, and even a few moments of silence. It was in those moments that Emma realized something profound. She had spent so much of her life feeling like an outsider, like she wasn't worthy of love. But now, she felt like she was finally home. Not because of the grand gestures or the money, but because she had found someone who saw her, truly saw her, for who she was. Later that evening, as they walked back to her apartment, Liam stopped her at the door. He leaned in and kissed her gently on the forehead, his hand resting on her cheek. "I'm not going anywhere, Emma," he whispered. "We're in this together. Always." As Emma closed the door behind her, she stood there for a moment, letting his words sink in. Maybe it wasn't perfect, maybe it wasn't easy, but it was real. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The weeks that followed felt like a dream. Emma and Liam settled into a rhythm, finding comfort in each other's presence. The more they shared, the more they understood each other. The fear that once held Emma back was slowly being replaced with a sense of peace. She was no longer questioning every move, every word. Instead, she was learning to trust in the simple, quiet moments they shared. They spent weekends visiting small art galleries, and Liam would patiently listen as she talked about her paintings, the stories behind each brushstroke. It was in those moments that Emma realized how much she had been holding back, not just from Liam, but from herself. One afternoon, as they walked through the park, Emma stopped and turned to Liam, her heart beating faster. She had something she needed to say. "Liam, I've been thinking a lot about us, about how far we've come," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "When we first met, I never imagined I would feel this way. I was so scared, so convinced that I wasn't good enough, that I couldn't let myself believe that this could be real. But now, I see things differently." She paused, her breath catching in her throat. "I see how much you care. And I know that I care about you, too. I'm ready to be all in, with no more doubts." She smiled softly, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. Liam looked at her with a warmth that made Emma feel like the world had stopped spinning for a moment. He stepped closer, gently taking her hands in his. "I've been waiting for you to say that," he replied, his voice full of sincerity. "I've been here, every step of the way, waiting for you to realize that you're worthy of everything you've ever dreamed of. And I'm so proud of you, Emma. You've grown in ways I can't even explain." His thumb gently brushed her knuckles, sending a small spark through her hand. They stood there for a few moments, just looking at each other. There were no more questions, no more doubts. There was just a quiet certainty between them. Emma realized that everything she had been afraid of, the fear of being hurt, the fear of opening herself up, was nothing compared to what she felt now. She wasn't just holding on for the sake of hope. She was holding on because she believed in them. She believed in their love. That evening, Liam took Emma to a small, intimate restaurant tucked away in the city, the kind of place that felt like a secret only they knew about. As they sat down to dinner, the soft glow of candlelight flickering between them, Emma felt a sense of calm she had never known before. Liam reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "There's something I want to ask you," he said, his voice soft and filled with a new kind of tenderness. Emma looked at him, her heart skipping a beat. "What is it?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. Liam smiled, his eyes locked on hers. "Will you marry me, Emma? Will you make this life we're building together official?" He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, opening it to reveal a simple, elegant ring. It was everything Emma had ever imagined, yet nothing at all like she expected. It wasn't a grand gesture, but it was perfect. Emma blinked, stunned. The world seemed to slow down around her as she looked at the ring, then back at Liam. She had never imagined this moment, but now that it was here, it felt right. It felt like the beginning of everything she had ever wanted. She didn't hesitate. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." I love you. The words flowed out of her like a release, like a promise she had been holding in for far too long. Liam's face lit up with joy as he slipped the ring onto her finger, his eyes sparkling. I love you, too, he said softly, his voice filled with everything he had kept hidden inside for so long. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of happiness, laughter, and quiet moments. As they left the restaurant and walked through the streets of the city, hand in hand, Emma felt like she was finally living the life she had always dreamed of, not the life she had imagined for herself alone, but the one she had built with Liam, the man who had shown her what it meant to love and be loved in return. As they reached her apartment, Liam kissed her gently on the lips, and Emma knew, without a doubt, that this was just the beginning. The future was uncertain, but with Liam by her side, she was ready for whatever came next. Together, they would build a life full of love, trust, and all the possibilities that came with it.